Hello, everyone. My name is KJ, and I am the host of Great Talk and Entertainment Official Channel. And today's video is my spoiler review for the new movie, which is in theaters right now, the 2026 The Odyssey movie, directed by Christopher Nolan. So, in this is my obviously spoiler review. I'm going to go in a deep dive, scene by scene, talking about the whole film and explaining how I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and of course, just going into a deeper meaning about how things played out, about the story of the Odyssey and each character, and of course, you know, just talking about was it correct, was it not correct, and what this movie was inspired by, and where Christopher Nolan took this, and so much more. So, again, if you have not seen this film, please pause this and check out my non-spoiler review and go see the movie The Odyssey, and then come back. Let me know what you think about The Odyssey in the comments below. So, before I go into a deep dive of the 2026 movie The Odyssey, check out this skit, and then after this skit, I will talk about this movie. So, this is your spoiler ahead warning. So, enjoy this skit. Hey everyone, this is my toy review, aka unboxing the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Reignition. This is the Power Morpher, and here's what it looks like. And you only get the not you don't get all the Rangers. You only get one, two, three, four, five. You only get the five Rangers. You have to get the sixth Ranger, aka the Green Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. Once you get the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Green Rangers, Dragon, dagger, aka the flute. And then you get the coin that you can add in this. But when you just buy this, all you get is the five rangers. So that's black, blue, red, yellow, and pink. So that's all I got. But here it is. And it's already got one of the coins, which is the Red Ranger, which is the T Rex tank. And again, the back is kind of similar to the action figures of the Red Ranger and Green Ranger and the other Power Rangers. It's kind of similar. It doesn't have a description, but it just shows you what to do, how to insert it, and I'll just close it up. Hell, you can wear it as a belt buckle, so that's pretty cool. And this has 40 plus phrases and sound effects. So this is a lot. So we're gonna unbox this, or I'm gonna unbox it, and you guys gonna watch. So yeah, just for your if you're a child and you're a fan of the Power Rangers, this is for y'all. If you're just a fan of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and you grew up with it and you like collecting this stuff, this is for y'all too. So here it is. We're gonna unbox it right now. So here we go. Ooh, oh, this thing's strong. So I got it out. Here it is, and you can see that that's how you hold it. So you can be like, "It's morphin' time!" Bam. But you do it two hands. Look at that thing, boy. Woo! So neat. Let's see. Oh, look at this. This is the on and off button, and it also has a demo. So obviously the demo is for the store. So I just click it there. So it does take batteries. I don't know what type of batteries it takes. I'll have to look at the box. But it's already got the coin on there. And if you're an adult, you probably have to put your hands like this. Can't hold any under it. I guess you can, but it's really a tight fit for me. This pause. But this is pretty cool. I'm already geeking out. But here it is. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Like, bro, I don't even know. Now, I still got some coins to get out. All right, so we got here's the Pink Ranger. This is the pterodactyl and stuff. So there you go. If you can see it. If not, it's okay. It's okay. There it is. And it's just plastic. It's just plastic. Looks kind of like a soda cap bottle. Like. Yeah. And this is um the Blue Rangers, which is, I believe, it's called the Triceratop. So it's pretty cool. I hope I said that dinosaur's name right, but if I did, I apologize. But here it is. Look at him. He looks like a happy guy. This is Billy, the Blue Ranger. Dun, 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 dun. And then I got two more. Two more. Two more. Okay, let's do Saber-tooth Tiger for the Yellow Ranger. This is her coin. And this is one mean Saber-tooth. It'll bite you. And the last one is the Macedon. And this is Zach, the Black Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. Yeah, I said it just like that. Here it is. Big guy right there. And he's no joke either. He'll take you down. That's all the coins. And of course, I forgot the last one. The Red Ranger coin, which is the T Rex. The name of the T Rex is the. And of course, last but the last one I forgot to mention is the Red Ranger, the Tyrannosaurus. And the last one is the Red Ranger Tyrannosaurus, the T Rex. So here it is. Bang. So obviously this one's already in. So right here, you have two buttons right here that make the sound effect. So I'll hit the first one right here, closer to my right, and here it goes. Watch this. And I'll hit the other button. Nothing. That's okay. Oh, there you go. Hiya! And I'll do one more. Boom. Now, if you hit the second button and you squeeze it, this opens it. And then you can just morph. Now, how do I pop this out? Oh, just like that. It's a little struggle. But you kind of just it pops off, and then you can just add your next coin. So let's do my girl Kimberly. We gotta show some love to the Pink Ranger once. Do this for you, ladies. Uh-oh. She was ready. She's ready to go, ladies. Be like that. Kia. That's pretty sweet. I like this one. Dang, she's not playing around. All right, and then obviously you hit the other button, and of course, it's not gonna always be perfect. So, because it's just a toy, you just gotta pop that off. Now let's go back. Let's do Zach, my boy Zach. Mastodon. That big boy. There you go. It's morphin' time. So cheesy, but so good. So good. There you go. Yeah. Watch this. Let's take them down. Again, little tough to get the coins off. You kind of have to. Now let's do the Yellow Ranger, Saber Tooth Tiger. That's so sweet. She needs the dinosaur power. That's pretty neat. Yeah, yeah. Let's blast them. Scaring my cats. Scaring my cat. Again, it just makes whatever random sound now at this point. So never gonna be correct. That was tough. That one just threw out of my hand. Now I did the last one. Billy! Billy the Blue Ranger. I'm here ready. Dinosaur power. Kia. That's it. Yeah, they didn't give Billy a lot of dialogue in this one. That's all right. And then it goes back to Jason. It's morphin' time. But yeah. And then, yeah, I don't have the Green Ranger. Say it's the dagger. I don't know if I can get it though. But that's it. Yeah. I'm gonna put the Red Ranger back on. I heard you can find the button to trigger the Green Rangers, but I don't know how to do it. And then when you're done, you just turn that thing off. See? I believe it's off. See? I can hit the button. No sound because I got it off. Save batteries, and your parents won't lose your mind. But I'm gonna turn it on every day. Bah! Just like that. But honestly, look, I know they made the morphers before for adult or like replicas of it a lot like a few years ago. Feels like a long time. Yes, it's not as realistic. It's just plastic. And again, it's for kids and people who like to collect things. But honestly, it's not bad. And this is what you get and what you should expect a morpher. And honestly, I like it. I think it's not bad looking. It's pretty cool. I know you can the legacy edition or whatever it's called like is better for sure if you're going through the lens of the eyes of a collector. But if you're just a fan of Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, I highly recommend getting this. It's really cool just to have, just to hold and show off to your friends, family, cousins, whatever it is. Like just show it off. And I think it's really cool. So, but that's my thing. I would honestly, this is an A plus toy to me, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I think this is an A plus toy of the Power Ranger Morpher. Uh, and I think it looks cool, and I'm gonna enjoy this. So that is my review for unboxing the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reignition, the Power Morpher edition. So be on the lookout for more of these reviews on here on my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. So thank you guys, and peace out. This film starts off in the beginning as the Odyssey begins, where the phrase "a time of apparent magic" shows up because Christopher Nolan uses the word "apparent" as the key word to this film because it's not all historical accurate, but we're telling it through the lens of how Christopher Nolan perceives the story of the Odyssey. And again, this is a time of against under Zeus's law. And in the beginning of the film, as we cut to, we see the bard who is played by Travis Scott, and we see him in the same room where people go with Odysseus and his wife have always allowed people come in to have dinner or meals together. Basically, even let the poor, aka they call them the beggars. And so this is very common because this is under Zeus's law, right? And the bard starts reciting poetry as he slams down this staff that he holds, and on top of that staff is a bowl, and this could represent the the sun god. And he is just reciting words, and he's telling the story about the story of the Odyssey, but through his eyes. And what's really interesting is this whole thing that Christopher Nolan has directed is through the lens of the poor side. People who weren't there, they they lived off in dirt poor places on different islands, different places, and this is how they heard about this story. This is how they uh, envision and recognize Odysseus is by this story of the Trojan horse. Because as we get the scene cuts back to the fall of Troy in a time to where he's at the beaches, and Troy's there where the Trojans ride down on the white horses, and they're here to collect this peace offering to greet them by only using to be filled with arrows. So this is a thing, right? So the Trojans regard the horse as an offering, and it begins the horse as an offering to them, and then they're dragging it up the beach, only for the story to be interrupted and question that it's been brought up through this film is Odysseus. Is he still alive? And obviously, 8 years has passed by in this, and that's an important thing to bring up. 8 years has been passed by, and Odysseus is missing. And most of the Greeks are now convinced that he is dead. And obviously, this had to be a lot of rumors, a lot of stories, because nobody in this time period knows about what Odysseus is doing right now, why they're telling these stories. This is like a lot of gossip. This is from travelers who have traveled and sailed in the ocean. And that's why you see Odysseus' wife is always trying to figure out, and we'll get into that. Because again, the beginning of the film, it says a time of apparent magic. So it's whether was there magic, was there not magic, who knows, right? Because we're gonna see a lot of stuff, but Christopher Nolan told it in a modern day way of explaining how this story would go using, you know, a lot of the cast members are definitely not using old English accent, whether they do have that or they don't, but they talk very English, more American English like. And And so that's why, like, if you see a lot of people are complaining about like the character that Tom Holland played, said the word dad. They didn't really use the word dad. They probably said father, papa, whatever. But that's just a perfect example. But because nobody really knows the actual true story of it, a lot of it is here, there, he's here, there, here, there. And, a lot of this, again, is from rumors and gossip, what people claim, and they just take their word for it. And that's how they set the tone of this, which I really loved about this film. And let's go back to that scene where the bard, played by Travis Scott, now Odysseus' wife, she doesn't like this story because it's very still it hurts her, it's traumatizing, which who's played by Anne Hathaway. But he says this thing, so it goes boom boom, a face, boom boom, a fleet, boom 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 boom, a war, boom 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 boom, a man, boom 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 boom, a thought, boom 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 boom, a trick, a treat, a trick, a break, as this was of Troy, and the burning, screaming to the ground. Now, this is from the Odyssey of Homer, and this got translated in Greek from the Greek, and it's by Samuel Butler of the year 1900, and it just explains about what was going down. And the one thing they translated it just goes something like, and I had to write it down, just by the way. Tell me, O Moose, of the ingenious hero who traveled for far and wide after he had scared the former town of Troy. So basically, like, this is just one way they cited, but Christopher Nolan, the reason why I want to bring that up, because again, Christopher Nolan is taking these perspectives of this poetry, and it got translated too, by Samuel Butler. And the reason why that's important is because throughout this film, you know, and I think this is real genius and really creative of Christopher Nolan, because of the fact of poetry just has like the way they would do poetry just has like a little bit of flow, like dun 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 type, because they're telling a story that they heard through gossips and rumors. And in this era, guys, there's no fact checks. There's no fact checks. There's no evidence. Like, it is what it is. Right? We don't know. But again, this is under Zeus's law. This is how they view things in the Greeks. So you got to understand, like, things are a little different. These are darker times. But they had to get through this. And they knew they were going to get through this at some point. So that was a very important thing. And again, Odysseus, his wife, she doesn't like to hear this stuff. And I'll explain why. Now, she after the whole point is now is Penelope, again, who's played by Anne Hathaway, who what I consider one of the greatest actors of all time. You know, just she's amazing in any film she does. To me, in my opinion, just saying me, just saying me. Chill, 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 chill. But she does. So Penelope is in a situation now that her husband, her king, Odysseus, has been gone way too long. Like I said, it's been about 8 years, 7 years, and that's a long time. And what's the rules about in kings and queens? Gotta have a king. And if your son is not at the right age and not ready to take that, the queen's got to get remarried. So Penelope has to get remarried by law, Zeus's law, by the way, not my law. But so there's a lot of prospective suitors out there who really want this woman. And again, they're attracted to her, but they're also attracted to having the power and be ruler. And a lot of these guys stayed back. They didn't go to war with Odysseus. And we learn why, but so she's scared and she really doesn't want to because this woman, Penelope, she just has a lot of hope that her Odysseus is alive and he's going to show up. And, and I really love this because, again, this is. This is some deep meaning about like the idea of this era with the Greeks and like how things get played out. Again, there's no real because in Christopher Nolan's going based off of poetry, and even Homer is in the author Homer who wrote this, and then Elliot Wilson too, who he takes inspiration from. They recite poetry because they watch people like the bar who would do these performing. Not that's why they have that's why Nolan has like Travis Scott because he's a rapper, and in a way, he probably asked Travis Scott, kind of try to be a rapper at the same time, but stay within the kind of like poetry style, right? So to me, this is like more modern day slam poetry, the way Travis Scott, as he portrayed the bar, would recite poetry because in that time poetry was recited a little bit differently like I said. Now I don't know exactly how it would sound like, but I know it was a little different, which it's supposed to be a little different. But again, this is a movie. We're not talking about real life of the Greeks and the real story of the Odyssey because again, this is just a movie, but also Christopher Nolan also is going in a different direction with this story, but he did it in a way where it's more different in his own style, but in a way that people, the audience, the viewers who watch this movie can understand this and interpret better. So I just want to keep that clear. So back to the main scene where again this whole thing is about Odysseus' wife has to get remarried and she doesn't really want to. And we're going to meet a lot of characters who have potential, but it always goes down to the Robert Pattinson's character in this film. Just keep that in mind. But in that scene too, right? It's so dark because there's no electric and gloomy. But everybody's having a good time, but everybody has these big egos. Showing already like in this time period the corruption of the people in that timeline, how corrupted and how desperate are they willing to go far. And this is time where like marriage wasn't really based on love. This is based on like political choice. This is a time where things things weren't going the way we go now with love and relationships. So this was very important. And again, time was running out for her and stuff. But where they're living at is falling apart too. It's all falling apart. But we need a king to rebuild it. So this is like a dark time era. Now, also in this scene, we see the son Tamilicus, who's played by Tom Holland, aka who plays Spider Man. Now, his son Tamilicus, who has never met his father Odysseus, because when Odysseus dipped, he was just a baby. He dipped out. Well, he had to go do the Trojan War, and this is kind of like the aftermath. And throughout this film, the story of the Trojan horse is out of sync because they're only telling pieces by pieces. And what's going to be interesting is you're going to hear this story of the Trojan horse through so many different characters, and it's going to be kind of somewhat slightly told differently, which that is my favorite part of this whole film. One of them, I should say. So Tamilis is just unhappy so far because he knows his mom has to remarry, and there's 108 guys in there that he just does not like. He might just be a mama's boy. Who knows? But let's chill on that. Let's chill, chill, chill. He he's still loyal to his father, and he's still not scared. But what I like about this too is right now he's still a punk. He's still young, and he gets pushed around. And we see through this film like that, out of those guys, they lay the smackdown on him. Let him know like, yo, I could get you with the sword in their face. Put the sword in that boy's face because what I like about this is Christopher Nolan is showcasing that you know somebody like him is not ready to be king and has a lot of growing up to do, especially in this timeline of an era in the Greek era. This is dark times again. His daddy's gone. He's never met his dad, so the bond is a unique thing. But he trusts his mom, and he believes in these great tales about his father, Odysseus. So this is a very important key point too through this film, that he wants to be king, you know, and he wants to do this for his father. He does want to do this for his mother, but with the laws of his mom Penelope getting remarried is a thing that has to go down. It's like she has to take another husband. And in this film, the Odyssey, you know, it talks about how people are trying to survive through this time. And it's also showing like, things are not as it seemed. Like you're gonna see a lot of characters here, and I love this part too. Christopher Nolan is he's not telling like a historical version of the Odyssey, but he's telling the story of, I would say, a more it's a more drama. It's a drama story of the Odyssey because a lot of these characters just feel guilty because they never realize the ugliness and the meanness and the aggressiveness that has take place before, during, and after the fall of Troy. And like a lot of people, it's like you're gonna see it, and it's really important to understand that because this is more about the trauma, the PTSDs, the just being the dramatic shocks that they witness throughout this film. Like everybody has a different version of the same event because again, there's no fact checks. There's no news report like that. Not like that. Not like today. I mean, it may be going back to that way, but who knows? But it just shows you again, they're going by the word. So for those two to wait for Odysseus, that's a lot of faith and that's a lot of hope for that man to return. And again, they travel on boats and ships. Like when the wind ain't blowing, you staying. That's all I got to say. And it's dangerous. There's no cars and there's nothing like this. This is a rough journey throughout this film for everybody. Everybody. And what I like about this too is they're showing like there's people who didn't go and not experience what Odysseus experienced, and they're being the one gets to play politics. But then there's people who haven't and are playing politics, and now there's this big political war within this Greek era too. And again, so the sides of this and that is so unique and scary for a lot. And it's gonna get scarier. But not like scary horror scary movie type, but just is like people panic, people get very desperate, and you're gonna see a lot of desperations go on through this film because this is what these like characters would actually literally go through. Because here's the thing about a lot of those is it's like this is like do or die for them, right? Like a lot of people feel like they earn it, and some people don't actually deserve it. And you're seeing the battle between that, and you're seeing a lot of cowards, and you're seeing a lot of brave people take charge and sacrifice for nothing. So, and it's Christopher Nolan's showing every view and hitting every check mark of way to show a dramatic, emotional ride, you know, and you're gonna see a lot of that. Now, Odysseus' son, he's gonna go off because the character Robert Patterson plays Otydius. He is more the main guy, the main antagonized, the main bad guy who wants Penelope. Like he is determined to be that woman's husband. And he's not gonna stop. And he even talks smack about Odysseus. You know, talking about like things like about him, like make fun of the fact like in the story of Odysseus in the story of the Odyssey, Odysseus is famously known for uh having like a horse and a bull type thing, like both carry things and they both like screw up. Also too, they talk about how like when he hunts for food for cattle or prey, he bends his bow and arrow and bends it, and then he takes the string and he flings it to give his prey, the food that he's trying to hunt, a chance. And that's why it's like you see that Borg got the idea, and that Borg like either bit or headbutt his ankle or whatever. Probably bit. I think this Borg had like, I don't know, sharp teeth, or I forgot what they call him here, but anyway, he got his ankle, and he's just that's who Odysseus is. He's like kind of cocky, kind of trolls around. He's sometimes he makes a lot of bad decisions. Well, that's the wrong way to say it. Sometimes Odysseus is somebody who kind of just wings it a lot. You know, he thinks on the spot, which you know that's good leadership. You know, but or he improvises. That's the way I should explain. He improvises better in certain situations, but he's always like this is based off the Zeus's law. Like you should always show somebody hospitality because it could be a god under a disguise to see if you're obviously be showing hospitality. And then two, it's like you given the reason why he always does that with his arrow and pulls the string like a instrument, which it's I forget which instrument. It sounds like a cello in this movie, and I think they did that on purpose for a good reason. But he does that out of showing respect. Like he's not gonna. He's somebody who wouldn't like stab you in the back. Like he's gonna he's gonna make look you in your eyes and stab you in the front. Right. That's the metaphor of why he does that. But a lot of people think that's silly because again, it's like, dude, it's like a Borg. Just you don't want the Borg to know you're gonna shoot it with an arrow because it's gonna attack you like it did attack him and got his ankle. But that's just things about Odysseus is, and the character that Robert Patterson's plays is just talking hella smack about him, and it's getting under his son's skin, Odysseus' son's skin, and he just wants to prove it, you know. And again, like so, this starts the beginning of, and also in this field, Tamilicus is learning how to sword fight because again, he does go off and he's gonna look for his dad, right? And he's gonna go out because this to him, he nobody is good enough for his mom, Penelope. And you know, he's off on this crazy adventure. Now the question is Odysseus alive? And the answer is yes. And he's still on this island and he gets a lot of visions from Athena, urging him to leave this island that he's on. He is currently trapped on this island called Ogygia is the name of this island. And on that island is a nymph named Calypso, and she's kind of like his lover, his friend, And at first, it was kind of confusing because I saw Athena, who's played by Zendaya, Tom Holland's wife, and what I saw with that was like and I liked about this too, even though it's a little confusing, but Athena is the only one god who's in human form, and the other woman is just Calypso. She is just there to help him, but she's trying to help him, get his memory back, and he encouraged him. But she's always having him eat this flower, and the flower name of this flower is called the lotus flower, and she's just helping him reflect, gain his memory back. So a lot of this is just what's really cool too is it's just him retelling the story, and she's just listening, so that he's just because he's stuck right now, and he's just taking back, reflecting on the journey, and it's taking us back to what happened to the following of the fall of Troy, and after long years of the war of Odyssey. And of course, he part ways with Agamemnon, who in this film was ore farming. Like, honestly, I'm gonna be honest, his armor in all black remind me of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight movie. The way that Christopher Nolan made that Batman suit or had Vision it would look like. That's where it reminded me on. Like, all he needed was the bat, ears or on the cowls or whatever, and that would have been Batman. I swear. Like, it's not bad. That's why I like it, because it reminded me of Batman: The Dark Knight, and of course Christopher Nolan directed that. But like, cause I remember, I remember they showed like the scenes where after the soldiers came out of the Troy horse, and he just showed up with more men of the army, and he's in that armor all black. It was just sweet. But in this part, after they do that war, they part ways and stuff. And you know what I love about Christopher Nolan too is like every movie he does, where it's like Tent, The Dark Knight, this every character's just trying to get back home in some way, and they all have a family, and they're all trapped in some way, or they lost their family. Batman, but it's just it's just Christopher Nolan likes this type of story, and he does this with every movie he makes. I think not like the exact same story, but the format, the formula that he uses to create and direct like these things. Because that armor was not that far away from Batman. It just had a little thing there. Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. That's what I got out of it. But that guy was ore farming in that. So I just want to put that out there. But they parted ways, and the rest of the Greeks that he's taking his crew west, despite that the warnings from this, the locals, the men said, don't go this way, like go on the west is bad. Like you should have followed the rest, right? But there's something about Odysseus. He was up for a challenge, and in this film, Odysseus, he was kind of like a non-believer. He had like no religious belief in this for Zeus, and he wanted to prove like all this mythical creatures weren't real, that all this nonsense wasn't that, and he was traumatized because he's seen a lot on his journey, and him going west has mentally screwed him up, but also he matured in a sense, in a way, when we get to that part. But again, we see his flaws in this too. Like, he's been warned, like, don't go this way. There's the people that they raided for some food and they ran away from them. He's like, yo, like, don't go this way. Like, this, wherever you're about to go is no good. And he should have listened to the old man. But he didn't, because he believes that where he was going is is where he needs to go, and he said it was like a quicker way, like a shortcut. But maybe sometimes taking shortcuts is not a good thing. As Odysseus' men kept on going, they come across this island. And on this island was very interesting. They see a bunch of sheeps, and they were going to follow this herd of sheep. They found one that takes us into this cave, a cave. And this cave, somebody was living in this cave that had stray of sheep. And it led them to, again, flocks of sheep. But in this cave was the worst decision Odysseus has ever made in his life, I feel like, because as they're heading in there, a giant cyclops that greets them inside this cave. And wow, I like the design of it. And I like the fact this was built. Like, this is a giant puppet. And then they probably put a little digital in it for mechanical reasons, but this was all built from the grounds up. And what an ugly creature. Like, I like this because most times when they tell a story about Cyclops, it's obviously the Cyclops did have the one eyeball and he was blind like here. But he's always big and strong, like and fat or something like. And but this one was he's he's tall. The Cyclops is tall. He had no eyes, like right here, and his whole face was smashed, like really smashed up. And the middle eye too was kind of smashed. It kind of looked like I can't say it on YouTube, but because it's kind of inappropriate. But it looked like something that the women have. But I'm not gonna go any further than that. But that's what it looked like to me, honestly. And I'm just saying, this thing was a struggle, and we see not Troy, Odysseus make bad decisions because he lost a lot of soldiers, a lot of allies, because trying to sneak through this was tough. You had to be really quiet because that Cyclops may not be able to see you, but they can hear you. And they try to escape, and they took turns. As soon as he left, a little few people stayed. But what I will say, Odysseus did show leadership. He made sure he was going to be the last one to leave. And so, but then the Cyclops got smart. It got smart. It figured out his bullshit. And I was like, oh, snap. This ain't good. And so, what they finally did, they went back to square one, where everybody's like, dude, just stab this thing in the eyeball and let's go. And that's what they did. But they didn't stab, they took like a giant log and lit it on fire and poked him right in the eyeball. Which that's pretty dirty and that's cheap. Like, he's just sleeping. But he did eat. He did eat Odysseus's soldiers, his allies, his the men, the friends, whatever you call them. And that was a little bogus. But to be fair, you went in that Cyclops cave, and Odysseus done a was eat this Cyclops knew how to make goat cheese or some sort or goat milk. I don't know. But this Cyclops ain't stupid. It was smart, or it had common knowledge. But these soldiers, they messed up and they got it. But to be fair, it's kind of Odysseus' fault. I felt bad for the Cyclops person because this thing, he was just minding his own business. And obviously, he's friends with these sheeps. And he was probably a pet owner. He considered these sheeps probably his son, his children, the sheeps. And Odysseus and his man just screwed it all up, which is kind of foul. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I would say Odysseus was in the wrong from this. And the fact that when he got out of the cave with the rest of the men, guess what Odysseus does? He decides to shoot him in the arrow back right here and pissed him off. And then this giant Cyclops ran down like a train and wrecked everybody. I was gonna cuss, but messed them all up. He even the Cyclops jumped in the water of the ocean and was started knocking over other ships or boats, wherever you call them. And a lot of people died because Odysseus thought, you know what? As soon as he's got out of the cave, he shot him in the eye with an arrow, which that was kind of stupid. That was dumb. That was a bad, dumb decision of Odysseus. But I like that because you know you don't. This is how you become a hero. You don't start out as a hero. You start out as an immature idiot sometimes. But Odysseus, you were foul for that. Just saying. Just saying. Leicester's Golians. That's the name of the island, and obviously that's the name of the people there. And they're giants because as they walk in, they see a little boy, and one of Odysseus's like right hand man was like, "Yo, we need to talk to your people. We need some food, hospitality, whatever." And it made the kid cry, and he screams, and then these giant like Gister Goliums come out, and they're giants. Like these are giants, like and boy, they laid a smackdown on everybody. And Odysseus make and all of them had to run back to the beach, and they make it back, and a lot of them didn't make it. But what's really interesting is them guys grabbed the ship by the hand, the Odysseus ships or boats, and grabbed it and started whacking on them. Like these are some strong dudes. Like again, bad decisions from Odysseus and his crew. They just make bad decisions, and and then they get their ass. I don't even know why, and a lot of people died in that. But again, this is like interesting too. And I'll explain it. Is this is where in the Greeks, you know, from the Cyclops, who's the son of Poseidon, and like these giants, these are like where if you hear people talk about giants exist or the Cyclops, Poseidon, this is why. These are like off like this would be like his Poseidon's like kids if you go by those. And who knows? Nobody was really there. Again, they're telling this is all through poetry. This is all through gossip. We don't know. But this is at this time, this is what the Greeks heard, and then they just believed because why not? That's the only explanation. Why would the sea, act like this? Poseidon, you know, the god of the ocean, like that's why. That's why. But what also too is they in Greeks they never used the word blue, and so in this movie when they're getting on those oceans to that island where are those giants, it was like a dark because Homer described the ocean dark like wine, so they never used the word blue, and that's an interesting thing. So the word blue, the color blue as we call it now, that word didn't exist. So I really like that Christopher Nolan, put that in small details within this film. And again, this is all shot in IMAX, which is amazing. But I just thought that was very interesting. And that's really cool of him to do that. And again, I'm not arguing whether the word blue was accurate, and I don't know when the word blue started. But for this film's sake, Christopher Nolan took that and literally made that into a vision the way Homer described the story of the Odyssey. That's all I'm saying. And so that was really neat of it. And as they're running away, they got to get back to regroup, and they suffer a heavy loss when one of their ships was literally destroyed by these big old things. So I don't even know. I think that's just bad decisions of what they're realizing because here this is where the mythical stories of Zeus and the other gods, would have took place and the idea of it. And so that's what you're seeing with this. The next scene, we go back to the present time as Timilius meets the king of Sparta, Menelaus, and he fought alongside Odysseus at Troy. Through the extended flashback of this, we get like a full story of what was going on, and I just, I just got to point this out. I just got to point this out. No matter what movie, John Berthal plays the same character in every movie or show. I mean, I feel Christopher Nolan got the best out of him to play this character that he's playing in the Odyssey, but he was still doing the whole like it reminded me of him playing Frank Castle, the Punisher. Uh, well, listen here, kid. Let me tell you the story of Odyssey. Like, and it was just like one of those things where I was like, oh my god, like his whole movie career is him just being himself. Which I'm not hating. I'm not hating on that. I just realized because I thought, okay, he's gonna be a different whole different. He's gonna have to be a whole different person because he's playing a character, and that's not like in the 21st century or 20th century, whatever. And like this is like Greek time, like, and again, nobody's talking in British accents, but I was like, okay, Josh Berthal is gonna, is he's gonna change his whole person out. It's same thing, like, because when Odysseus' sons visit and he waits and they go through this whole thing, he tells him the story and stuff, and he's married to um Helena. Helena, I think, is the word. I think Helen Troy. That's who she is. But basically, she got her face scarred by her husband, Menelaus. Menelaus, because of like she, well, she set up the stabbing of Agamemnon because if you remember, he sacrificed their daughter to calm down the wave. It's like a blood sacrifice to the god Poseidon of the ocean, and but or Poseidon, sorry, and that's the whole point. That's why she got the scars. That was like a punishment. 'Cause you're not supposed to be doing that as a woman, as a queen, and that, and they made that clear. So that's why she has those scars, and she's with him, the other guy now, as Odysseus' son is learning as because he's explained the story, and I love the story about how they explain how they were in that Trojan horse and showing like, and if what I love about Christopher Nolan in this too, about the way he did it, because it seemed very practical. This seems more like realistic. I'm not saying this really happened the way the Trojan horse was delivered to Athena, but here's what I'm saying, right? I mean, could it have been foolish enough to believe a giant horse, wooden horse on wheels was not a trap, right? Like imagine like are cuz in not the way Christopher Nolan's telling it, but historically from how it's written in history books and other things that this was on wheels. This horse, wooden horse, Trojan horse had was on wheels, and they just believed it. They're like, "Oh, this is a gift from the gods." Woo woo woo, and they brought it in, and then the story begins as they get out and attacked everybody while they were asleep, killed all the guards, and tore down that whole Athena place. Right? That's kind of like the idea of it, which that did happen. But with the way Christopher Nolan did it, this horse, Trojan horse, did not have wheels at all. This actually looked like a horse statue. Imagine a horse standing on the back of its legs, and the front legs are up, and it's standing. That's how they made this thing. Which this is where the logic went out the window too at the same time because I mean I could be wrong, but I don't think nobody could craft a horse that good looking of a wooden horse like that, like a statue like that. But I could be wrong. But this is just a movie. But I loved it because here's where I feel like Christopher Nolan portrayed this in the most realistic way. Think of like this reminds me when he did the movies, the Dark Knight trilogy, right? The Batman movie starring Christian Bale. What would Batman look like in real life? How would he act in real world times? This is the same format Christopher Nolan did in that movie, but he did it in this scene and obviously in this whole movie, to be honest with you. So, this statue wooden horse with Odysseus and all their men, they, and I loved it. I love how they explain it because these guys were in there for days, way before there, and all they left was Simon or Simon, yeah, and did not tell him her. And what was really really crazy is they stayed there and they drowned. Some not died. They didn't die yet. But the when the water that would hit the beach, the water would rise. And so they had to take like these not real straws, but something that looked like a straw and hold it on their mouth to breathe. I love that. My favorite part too is when the Athenian soldiers came down and stabbed it just to make sure. One guy got stabbed by the sword, and everybody would hold that guy's mouth like this. And then one of them like took some like a rag or some sort of clothing and wiped the blood off the sword, which that's crazy. But that's like that is it. I'll say it like this. It feels so realistic. Like logically, that's it looked logically realistic because imagine like that way, the way Christopher Nolan did it, that would really trick somebody. I would believe that's how you would fool them. But again, historically, that Trojan horse was on wheels. So, whoops. I don't know. I don't know. But for that scene, that was good. I remember this scene. I still think about that scene today. I'm going to think about that scene forever because that was good. So they dragged this horse and these guys have been in there. So now these guys are traumatized. These guys are having PTSD moments. Like there was no bathrooms. They stayed cramped up in there for a long time until these Athenian soldiers came and dragged it. And woo wee, that was got nuts. As soon as they put that in their little area, past the walls, got through the gate. They made the Trojan horse stand, and then they waited longer and longer, and then they got out, and then they started slicing and dicing because. And just imagine that this is what I loved about this scene too. Christopher Nolan made sure that this was going to be not just an action packed battle scene of a fight with swords and shields and whatever you could imagine. This was like, okay, these guys stayed in one position, cramped up, right? Even with Odysseus, he first jumped out. You know how like you sit down for a long time and like your foot fell asleep or something, you're kind of like your legs are kind of stiff. He had that and he's trying to like be sneaky like a ninja. Like I love the small details in there because I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's that is so realistic." And I don't even know why I'm saying the word realistic like that, but I'm just saying like he was and Matt Damon, If he don't win an Oscar for that, um, I don't even know. I guess I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't win, but I think he deserves to win an Oscar because that he was limping. He had a cramp. Like, can you imagine? Like, he would have a leg cramp, a Charlie horse, if possible. But I'm just saying, like, he was limping, and then he was trying to get feel. But imagine all those guys, right? Now they got all this burst of energy. They were gonna just they murdered everybody. They burned down everything. Cause this to be that locked up, trapped in that horse that long, things better get done. And they did. They got that gate open and everybody got it. Innocent people, which is the sad part about this. But this shows like Odysseus realized all this was nothing, and he never realized until that moment in these scenes, which they jump back and forth. It was just nuts. Like they done some horrible. They burned the whole area down, the whole island, like the little castles of it, just burned it, just burned the shit out of it. Innocent women, because we learn in this movie that uh, the goddess Athena that Odysseus is seeing is actually looking like disguised as a actual girl who got her head cut off. And but it was really weird in that too because I I'm shocked this wasn't more bloody and gory like, but it just wasn't. They kind of just and I see why Christopher Nolan did it. He was trying to make it more dramatic and less violent. Like it was supposed to be violent, but it was. I guess it wasn't important for Christopher Nolan to show blood for this because that's not the type of story he was telling of the story of the Odyssey. He was telling this version of it, and so when they do chop that girl's head off, you see the statue head get sliced at the same time, and you see that head, the statue over their head roll down. And they jump back and forth with that too. So that's why I like it. But this is where that's the moment where his they're explaining to the son of Odysseus, this is what went down. Here's the true story of this in the sense of like the awfulness. This is why this guy is just drunk throughout that movie. And this is a lost kingdom too. Like it's just because they seen some stuff and they went through some stuff. Now, also too, we see Telemachus in tears because this is probably the most realistic story that feels like his dad, even though he's never met his dad. But this is the closest thing. They hung out, they practiced shooting bow and arrows together, and the life lesson is like because Telemachus needs to go back, and he can't be running away from his problems. The issues back at home, and he needs to be back at home handling. This is the way you become a true leader and stuff. And so it's building up to the point, but they go back to the story of Odysseus and where he's at because he visits a another island where he meets the witch named Circe, and she's a witch, and the whole thing is we see like different animals that don't actually belong on an island in the sense of it, but Odysseus men's go up there and they ask for some food, and of course Circe feeds them, and they all turn into pigs. And my favorite part is I learned that this is all like clay trick, like this is all practical. I don't remember how they explain it, but the way Cersei's turning those humans into pigs was nuts, and it was intense. I was like, "What the hell?" And I mean, those guys kept eating it. See, I was like, "Oh my god, stop eating it!" And they kept turning slowly, slowly pigs. By the time Odysseus got up to that house, they were just normal pigs. But when Odysseus realized, "Oh shit went down," because that same ring that he gave his right hand man from the Cyclops, he realized, oh, this bitch did it. And I'm telling you what, it was nuts. But she tried, but he figured it out. And the only reason why they got back, but what's interesting, before she unturned them into pigs, she's like, what? I turn them who they really are, disgusting savages, right? And what's funny is when we get to replay back the scene where they do the Troy event, all of Odysseus's men and the other soldiers act like savages beasts as they slaughter innocent people in there, as I said earlier. That's why, again, Odysseus is seeing Athena as a girl who got her head chopped off by some savage soldiers who were just acting way too savage about it because they were just sleeping. And so this is the whole point. So all returns. But the only reason why she turned all those men back to regular humans is because Cersei's sister was a crow and he realized it. And what's interesting is there was no Achilles in this film. Like, I thought he was going to show up, but didn't. But anyway, they, in there, when she finally realized where she needs to go, which is go to Hades. And she's like, you're going to go, but they're not coming back. And they start foreshadowing again more of the death of his men, the soldiers that ride with that guy, Odysseus. And this is where because Odysseus here doesn't, he's not a true believer of Zeus. I don't think he believes in gods like that, as they portrayed him in this one. But I loved like the intent in that. I loved like the ideology of it, and again, just really good point of it. So to me, they did really well with that. But I just thought, God, that's just genius with the pig thing. Like, I never seen somebody, and it's not even CGI. It's just, I mean, that is the most creative thing I've seen. I mean, obviously not seeing humans turn into an animal, but just the way Christopher Nolan, that's some old school Hollywood movie film tricks that they just replaced because of technology. But Christopher Nolan's such a G like that. He finds a way to make it cool and relevant. And it's probably gonna inspire a lot of other directors to try to pull this off again, which I do hope. So as they get back on the ship and they're going back to Hades, this is where it gets weird because she tells them what she has to do. They also had to make a blood sacrifice. So this is going to be very demonic and satanic, right? And so they get to there, and like everybody that has passed and died has came out of the ground, and they explain how to him how he needs to get back home, which way to go. But what's really interesting is these two characters, and the first the first character is we see Sinan, and Sinan's dead because of the soldiers' men, and we discover that Sinan begged to go, but really Antinius paid the family so he can stay, and then Sinan can go and stuff. And he promised to take care of him, but he didn't. And they both lie. It was a noble thing, but it's like a noble lie type situation. And so Antinius is a scaredy cat pretty much, and you know he stayed because he's scared. He don't want to fight. And you see, like he's not a good fighter. He just talks a lot of smack, and he's mean, and he's rude. And Robert Pattinson killed it, of course, because he's a great actor, and he's Batman. But that's different. So Sinan explains, like, hey, so if you remember in this movie, when Odysseus was recruiting men, they would like do the straw trick, like the short end of the stick type thing. And so, but this one was wooden, little carved, you know, I don't know, statues, pieces, like wooden pieces, carved in a really pretty shape. And Sinan asked Odysseus, hey, take this back to him and remind him the shame that he's done. And that was some deep cut right there because they're explaining him like, "Yo, you have no idea what you realize, and this is all just was a wasteful time of doing the war." That's what they're telling him, in the sense of that the dead is telling him, because some of these men, armored men, are lied to and were tricked into battle. That maybe it wasn't a necessary battle in the sense of where they went. And then the ghost of Adam Migdosh shows up and explains, "Hey, they all turned on me when I came back home. I got stabbed by a woman that I was supposed to be married to, and we had a child with, and he got stabbed in the throat." You know what I'm saying? 'Cause she was upset. They plot his death. So he said, "Hey, don't go back to where you're at, Odysseus, on front door. You better sneak in. You better be somebody else, because everybody's out to get you." You know, because this is the point of this is that a soldier is good until they're done with you. But when the kings and queens and the politicians are done with you, you're done. You're out. It's time to disappear. And they're gonna make you disappear. And that's what they did. And you think what you did was so heroic, and all that sacrifice and tough decisions you made, there's people in your own home that's trying to get back at you. And that's the whole point they showed it. So as they're done, these the dead soldiers start chasing the ones who are alive back onto the ship, and they sail off. And this is where they get to the part where things get bad, because now they're heading towards an area where there's a lot of mermaids. And this time, this ain't Disney mermaid. You know what I'm saying? They may look good, they may look pretty. You know what I mean? They have a beautiful voice, but if you hear those mermaids sing that little song, the sirens, woo, you're gonna be controlled. And so, this is an important thing. Like, Odysseus is getting close. But what I like about this too is Odysseus. He tied him. He told his man to tie him up with a really strong rope, and don't put the wax in my ear. He wants to hear it. And the one of the guys took the wax out, and he heard the mermaid singing, and he just jumped off. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, bro, really? They told you not to, like. And of course, I bet the mermaids done ate him, but I don't know. I don't know. That's what they said in the historical book of the story of Odyssey. I wasn't there, but so he does that, and then it's like they after they got away from those mermaids, they were just singing that god awful song, because it's mind control. Why would you trust them? Why would you trust a mermaid if they do that to you? I don't know. But they asked Odysseus, like, "What'd you hear?" And he's like, "Just the pain and the negativities." So it's kind of like the way he explained it is like, it's not you're not hearing a beautiful song. You're hearing, like, subconsciously, like, "You failed. You're not great." Negative words. You know, doubt. And because he was crying, but Matt Damon did such a good job in that scene, because he was like showing the pain, but he was in agony, but he was also crying like Odysseus was. But Matt Damon really pulled that off. And so this is the thing, but it also showed, like, I believe, I don't think they made it clear, but this is what I'm thinking. This is where I believe Odysseus started having memory loss, because I think when the mermaids started singing their song, it cracked him, mentally cracked him, and he started going crazy. Which, that's more possible to the idea of what could have gone down, in my opinion. And so we got that, and I also just think, like, this was like him getting crazy, because he's been gone for a long time, and sailing on a ship with these in the oceans with big giant weather storms, or of course the god of Poseidon just reckoning things, if you go by that. It was tough on that man. Like, he was going crazy. He was mentally going crazy. That's what I got when I saw that mermaid scene. But other I liked it. I liked it. And you know what? It was really neat. There were actually on legit custom made boats slash ships. I don't know which one's the right word. That look like what Greeks would ride. And I thought that was really cool. And again, just like the IMAX people with the IMAX camera on that boat, like, oh my god, can you imagine one fell in the water? That'd be expensive. Ooh, that'd be an expensive loss. Like, 'cause those things ain't cheap. Have an IMAX camera? Oh, check Google it, guys. Google the price. Like, can you, I hope nobody dropped one in the ocean when they shot this film. But I'm just saying that would have sucked for real. Couldn't imagine that. But this is all practical thing, except those mermaids who portray the mermaids were like models, obviously, and stuff. But they really looked the part. And I love the fog because you can't really see their faces, but that's the whole point because you know historically in Greek, like mermaids were terrifying creatures. So they look good, but then when you realize, oh my god, this is a monster, that's the whole point. But Christopher Nolan, I like the choice he made with this because instead of like, and I'm shocked. I mean, he showed a Cyclops, but if they would have had a scene where the mermaid jumped on that boat and ate everybody, that'd have been cool. But he didn't go that route. But this route, it gave you that mysterious feel, but it gave you the sense of like, oh, don't mess with them. Do not mess with them. Also, too, what I liked about with that mermaid scene, they use these two instruments that they use in Greece called the aloes. And the way you do it's like the simplest way is like imagine two flute you're gonna use two flutes at the same time. And in behind the scenes they talked about the how they did it. They had to make one because this is like a the aloes is something they didn't have the original material like the Greeks used. But so when you hear like that sound, it's actually him, this guy, I forget his name, I apologize. But you hear the instrument custom made aloes just for this movie, which is really awesome because the music in here is just instruments that are pretty close or remade that the Greeks once used in this time. And the aloes in this you hear in the background when like, before and after, but it's like it was it sounded cool, right? And it was neat too because when they put the beeswax in their ears like that, right? I just want to point this out. Like, it made it sound like when you put headphones or some earplugs in your ears, that having that sound muffled your ears into the movie and then hear the aloes. Such a good, cool sound and really neat. I thought that was really like they really you can tell in scenes like these they took the time to really small details what made that scene so great. Obviously, it was really intense, but it gave you the idea of what they may have gone through when they're on the ocean. Odysseus and his crews make it past the sirens, aka the mermaid. They invade this whirlpool, which in behind the scenes, it was just like people on like jet skis and stuff, and they like made the whirlpool. So I thought that was pretty cool. So it wasn't like I thought it was CGI, but it wasn't. And of course, they got attacked by the sea monster, and the sea monster in this, I wasn't a fan of it because it just looks like I don't know, it just looks like worms. But I think in the book, in the the story of Odyssey, this creature that we see in this scene, whether you read it from the author Homer or somewhere else, but the mythology creature to this had like different like heads basically. I like from a lion to a dragon type stuff. I can't remember exactly all what those that creature represent. But I get it. He was trying to make it a mystery thing. Like, what the hell is this? You can't tell what it is. And the whole body was still in the cave. So this thing, you know, it I see what he was trying to do, and he went that route, which is I'm not complaining, but I just didn't like how it looked. But this thing obviously wrecked the crew, and what the reason why they got attacked by this like sea monster who killed like several of his men is because he was trying to avoid that whirlpool, which those whirlpools actually exist, natural ones, and like they're not as big as they are. They can be, but most a lot of the times they're just small. And like if you're on a small boat, you'd be screwed. But if you're on a big boat, I think you should be fine. But he was just trying to avoid it, so he went through these rocks, and they saw that sea monster. And so he was just trying to be practical, but his right hand man was so furious about this, believing that Odysseus has gambled reckless with the lives of his crews. Like that's their livelihood. But I see, because and to me this is where I think after the because Odysseus it was is reckless, to be fair, because if you think about it, before that they try to when they get passed by those mermaids, and they do that mermaid song that like would hypnotize you. He decided to have his crew to tie him up, his whole body up to the ship basically, and he was just gonna listen to it. And I think that meant, like I said earlier, I think that mentally cracked him. Like he went crazy inside his head mentally. And I think it made him a different person. Not like his just his mannerism. And I think it's still affecting him, because usually you don't nobody usually survives when you come across like mermaids like that. So that's how it's always been told. So I think, to me, this showcase again, like maybe Odysseus is actually indeed losing his mind and just making the bad, decisions. Pirates eventually reach the island of Thrinakia, where they make a vow not to slaughter its scared cattle. But unfortunately, strong winds leave them and strand them on this island for too long, like for days and days and months and months. And this obviously is driven by the depression and hunger, and the men eventually do slaughter the cattle. Now, they agreed with Odysseus to only have food just enough, not too much, not too less. But when the food ran out, things got real. The desperation kicked in. And what's funny is, if you remember the witch, she told Odysseus, like, no, you're the only one's going to leave Hades. You're the only one's going to come back home. Your crew's not. And this is again, they broke his promise to Odysseus that they weren't going to eat all the cattle like that. But Odysseus is the only one who didn't join them. And he's like, man, I tried to stop you guys. I'm trying to protect you. And now you got yourself killed. And that's true, because when the wind finally dies down, they take their chance to return to sea. However, a monstrous storm, which is again, they're believed by the men, have been sent by Zeus's anger to destroy the ship, and kills the remaining crew. So again, this is the law of Zeus, according to the Greeks. So this was honestly this was a lot of foreshadowing, and this was showcasing why Odysseus is the true king, a true leader. And even though he's being reckless, but he's also the one that is the smart one. He's the one that is gonna be the one that saves the day, basically. And Christopher Nolan, he does this a lot with a lot of characters throughout all the movies he's done, like The Dark Knight, the Batman with Christian Bale. You know, if you watch the first one, we see Batman, you know, just really heartbroken. He's obviously lost of his parents, but when he gets to like the the ninjas that's run by Ra's al Ghul, you know, he has one of these moments where he's really reckless, and they're making him not reckless before he becomes Batman. And this is what Christopher Nolan's doing with Odysseus. Before he can become Odysseus himself, he has to go through some trenches of life, right? And so, you know, this is what happens. So Odysseus washes up on a shore of Calypso's island where the two spend together years together. Like, I think 7 years is what they've been saying. And Odysseus finally realized how much time has passed, and Calypso explains that the lotus flowers clouded his mind. All this time, despite he's continued to clean the memories of Penelope and his son Timothyus, you know, that it's like he was literally just trying to he lost his memory, like, because he was so traumatized with that big storm. Like, to be the last person out of your whole crew is nuts. Like, he lost his ship, he lost everything. But what's really interesting is the relationship that he had with Calypso, because it's like she helped him get back, but they were lovers. And I don't know if they had a kid or not, but it doesn't seem like they had a kid, so I don't know. But she said they were happy with each other, and throughout this movie he even told her that he's happy with her. So, but he still clings to his wife Penelope. Calypso eventually allows him to leave, explaining that he must give himself up to Poseidon. Odyssey does exactly Odysseus does exactly that, and he eventually just makes his way back to Ithaca. However, you know, the plan is already in motion that the bandits disguise as a pilgrim to murder Timocleus' men because of Antinius. His plan is to be married to Penelope. So now this plan's going on in this next scene, and they want to murder them in cold blood before turning their attentions to the unexpected prince. Thankfully, Odysseus arrives and saves his son before he's killed. And what's interesting too, like, where they were trying to poison Odysseus' son and his men is like sacred grounds. This is where you pray, this is where you ask for forgiveness, you cleanse your sins. And so I like how it's like a poetic justice religious thing, because like if you're gonna when because they try to they did shed blood, to be honest with you, they did. And obviously they shed blood and killed the bandits killed that old man's dog, all the blind man's dogs. I mean, that's kind of messed up. Like, what? The dogs, not the dogs. Like, I this is the stuff that the character Robert Patterson plays in Tinius. I mean, he's a scumbag, and his crew's scumbag too. Because why you gonna kill all them dogs? Like, okay, beat up the old man, the blind old man, but you didn't have to kill the dogs like that. They didn't do nothing to them. That was heartbreaking for me. And so when when Odysseus arrives and saves them, I'm glad they got what they got those bandits got it because not for them, but for the sake of the dogs that had to die in this. That's messed up. Now, Temiclus then returns to the heart of Ichia, declaring that Odysseus is nearby, but has sent him ahead in his place. Temiclus instructs to the place to organize a banquet that evening and invite all the suitors, like all the bachelors. This is the bachelorette before the bachelorette, right? When Antinous sees Timaeus return unharmed, he struggles to conceal his rage and surprise. And guess what? Because Antinous realizes that Penelope is like undoing her like a sewing type thing. I don't know what you call that, but she would purposely do that and then undo her work on this like carpet or picture. I don't know what he called it, and I apologize. Penelope is furious because she still has hope for this, and so she rather burn them all of them down, but she reluctantly agrees to this attend to this banquet because her son's trying to explain to her like this is a plan, just watch, everything's gonna work out. Now, the night of Odysseus confronts Argos, the family dog who has been taken outside and left to die, which that was oh my gosh. That was a heart. That tugged my heart. I couldn't handle it. I was in tears because that dog waited for his owner. That dog waited and waited and waited. And then the dog passed away and I was in tears because as a pet owner, oh my gosh, like I couldn't handle that. But I'm glad that dog saw his dad. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You know, and the affection that he shows towards the animal leads to Temeculus to realize that that the robbed stranger standing before him is actually his father. And this is an genuinely touching moment for the father and son thing. And he eventually says, "Welcome home, stranger." And he's in disguise at this point. Now, during this banquet, Odysseus deliberates, provokes Antinous, and introduces himself as Sinon. Sinon. I apologize. Sinon, taking the name of the bravest man he ever knew, because this is where it all goes back to the unsell Antinous who throws a ball at the supposed beggar. They use the word beggar instead of poor or homeless. His head, an act that violates the law of Zeus regarding hospitality, because it says sometimes Zeus would send other gods in disguise to see if you're following Zeus's law of hospitality. Now, Temeculus declares the feast over, and once the suitors have left, Odysseus speaks privately to Penelope while continuing to disguise himself as a beggar. He explains that a homecoming is never easy and that Odysseus is not truly home just yet. And the woman, the older lady who's gonna wash his feet, his foot or feet, yeah, feet. She realizes, oh, that's him. But he's like, hey, shush, 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 shush. And she listened because she knew what was about to go down. And now we get to see how Odysseus is going to deal with these suitors. Now, Odysseus remains haunted by what happened at Troy. The Greeks used to be use the appearance of peace offering to in- infiltrate the city and slaughter inhabitants, and he now believes they define the gods by doing so. He is racked with guilt and shame, even during the days of sweaty celebrations that follow the city sackings held among the fiery ruins. Odysseus even believes that he has broken the laws of Zeus forever. So this is a man with guilt, shame, and in a way, this is him being woke. Now, Odysseus eventually does decide to kill all the suitors himself, using the final trick that restores order to Ithaca. And Penelope gathers the men together for one final challenge involving Odysseus's bow and the 12 axe head. Now, we previously saw Odysseus complete the feat during the film flashbacks as unspringly none of the suitors are capable of replicating it. And this is like a small trick that only Odysseus knows how to do. Antinius refused to participate because one, he sucks and he's not a nice guy, he's a mean person. And of course he wants to suggest they bring the contest to the end, but guess who steps up? Odysseus as a beggar. And of course he's mad. Antinius is mad because his beggar said Sinian his name, and remember they switched because Latinius is a well, I'm gonna say it the clean version, a coward. Now the men watch in horror as they realize the beggar is actually Odysseus as he does the awesome bow. And that bow comes from an actual instrument and the way when he flicks the bowstring. And I thought that was really cool. I thought this is beautiful. And to see Penelope's face react, she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's him. It's my husband." And he makes short work of the suitors as they desperately attempt to fight back or escape because they're like, "Oh, we messed up." Now, Antinius takes command because you got to remember they said nobody leaves until the thing's over, and everybody planned to lock the doors. You got to remember that they were locked in. And of course, Antinius takes command and attempts to organize the remaining men, order them to retrieve weapons so they can defeat him. And if you notice, Antinius hides like a coward because he doesn't fight. He doesn't even use a sword or nothing. And of course, because of that, it does not work, and Odysseus eventually surrounds them. Temiclus steps up and helps turn the tide. And honestly, it was so cool. And it was father and son team up moment. This makes Antinius' death deliberately slow and giving him a message delivered to the fallen men waiting in Hades. Odysseus intends to honor them by traveling west. He also promised to return Antinius' shame back to him. And he did that. And that was a beautiful death ending right there. Now, with Antinius dead remaining, the Sooners eventually bend to their knees because they knew they messed up. They should have done it. They were sorry. However, Odysseus has been badly wounded with several arrows visibly protruding from his back following the battle because he took a lot of hits, took a lot of shots, you know. But Telemachus takes his rightful place as king, like he was supposed to, while Odysseus prepares to exile himself despite finally making it home. But that's not the well, that's a sad moment. But this is the true moment that it goes all the way back to. He intends to journey into the unknown west to honor his fallen men with Penelope, his wife, joining him. Because if you remember, they had a flashback where Penelope, Odysseus' wife, and Odysseus talked about, well, we just run away and leave and go sail on a boat. And he promised her that they were going to do that. And guess what? He did. Killed two birds with one stone. However, this boy may simply represent Odysseus' final wish, and it's playing out in his mind. In reality, it appears to be scum to his injuries in his throne's room while Penelope cradles him in her arms. So, you know, for a moment, it looked like he was going to die, but he doesn't. And again, like they sell off. right? And they leave. So he didn't die, and they go in the void, and whether he dies besides Penelope or not, he achieved the goal, and his son's king, and that's how it ended. So honestly, this was like such a good story. It was very dramatic. It was very heartwhelming. It it had me on the edge of your seat. My seat, I should say. It also too, it might not be accurate to the books, the Odyssey story that Christopher Nolan took inspiration from. And it might not be historically accurate, but this is more of the lens of the beggars, somebody who just lives dirt poor. That's why in the beginning of the movie, you saw the rapper Travis Scott play the character, the Bard. This is a lot of he says, she says, gossips, rumors, folk tale stories, sat around the campfire, and these are stories that were told to the next generation after Odysseus has passed away, whether through injuries or just of older age or whatever that may be. But this is again the final moments. This is the destruction of the wooden horse. This is the moment of the Troy story, how they survive through songs and a narrative generations of retelling this story. So this to me was more of a dramatic storytelling. This is the dramatic side of this story of the Odyssey to me. And that's why I think Christopher Nolan told it through the lens of somebody like the Bard, of people, of the beggars who've seen and witnessed some of these egotistic men and women who dine and didn't show hospitality under Zeus's law. And this is what they witness of their sins and lust and hatred, whatever you want to call it. But this is what they shown through those lens. Because again, nobody throughout this movie knew if Odysseus is alive. Some believed he was dead. Some don't even believe he actually came back, and none of this actually happened in the Greek era. So this was important for him to show that case. And I thought the way Christopher Nolan placed everything was really good. The story made so much sense, even though whether it's true or not, right or wrong, however you want to look at it. But as far as a movie, this was like a one of the best movies of this year, of the year 2026. This shit definitely gonna be in the top five. And honestly, this movie should win a lot of Oscars because this was brilliant. It was good. And honestly, 1 out of 10, this is an 8.5. I loved it. The cast did such a good job portraying these people, these characters, and I just they brought the emotions, they brought the feelings to it, and the way they walked and talked in this film was just so good. I mean, Anne Hathaway, she's the best of the best. And for her to just throughout this film, she just sat in the same room, but had like a not a door, not a curtain, but something to block her and not make her see how people eat during like when they're eating during the evening or whatever, and people couldn't see her face really well, because, especially for the suitors. But for that performance, she was just amazing in that. Tom Holland did really good. I mean, he's always he definitely reminded me of Spider-Man, but that's just because Spider-Man's coming out. But Brand New Day, Spider-Man Brand New Day, but that's why. Matt Damon, he did really good. This is one of his better films that he was in that I like that he's in. And honestly, this amazing crew. I think Christopher Nolan brings every actor and actress's best out of them, and he's just really good at making sure that he can deliver that and get them to do and execute the way he wants these characters to be portrayed. So he honestly did a good job. So honestly, I hope you guys did like it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But that is my spoiler review, guys. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment Official Channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so it gives you always update with all my latest content. Thank you guys and peace.